Hey, everybody. Welcome to Locked On Lakers for a Thursday. Brian Kamenetsky, Andy Kamenetsky. Lakers lose in Utah. They do not look good heading into the break. We will break it all down next.
You are Locked On Lakers, your daily Los Angeles Lakers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks to everybody for making Locked On Lakers your first listen of every day, Monday through Friday. No matter how or where you get your podcast, this one's always free, never behind paywall. Locked On Lakers on YouTube is where 32,000 people, give or take, are all subscribed there and looking at the Lakers heading into the break and feeling reasonably good about where they are at 32-20, despite Andy losing pretty badly in Utah on Wednesday night, 131-119. And, you know, I look at this one, and if they were, let's say, instead of 32-20, let's say they were 26 and I'm not going to do the math, 26, I'd be a lot angrier about this game than I am. Like, this feels different given how well they've been playing. Still a missed opportunity, still not something you want to excuse. But you don't feel as bad about these kind of clunker games when they've put together a really nice run of solid play. That's just me.
There are a lot of extenuating circumstances to this loss. Contextually, there's the idea that they played without Dorian Finney-Smith, Gabe, Vincent, and saved 7 minutes. Jaxson Hayes, who got hit in the face, facial contusion. That's all the details we got. JJ Redick afterwards said just no further details beyond confirming it was a facial contusion, which is what we were told. You combine that with Luka and Vando still on minutes limits, and you start getting into this place where there are fewer opportunities for ideal and continual rotations for JJ and floor combinations. Combine that with what appeared to be either undefeated nightlife in Salt Lake or guys perhaps looking ahead to the All-Star break for a variety of reasons. Having visited Salt Lake, I'm saying it's the latter. I've been there before. No disrespect. It's gorgeous, but not exactly a hotbed of activity, at least in my time there. JJ also talked about afterwards, without excusing it, but certainly, again, contextualizing it, there are a lot of guys, including JJ himself, given everything that's happened to him in the recent wildfires and his house burning down. As he noted, he's trying to find a permanent apartment during the All-Star break and fill out insurance claims. Everybody could use a mental break, and this looked like a game where they started their break at 6 p.m. local time. That's also off time for this game.
I'll be honest, I also thought the game started at 7, so I could understand, the players on the team maybe being a little confused about, in terms of when they thought it started too. I think the point you're making about depth matters here. Like, obviously, again, the Lakers should. You had LeBron James, you had Luka Dončić playing this game. You should beat the Utah Jazz. It's that simple. But without going too deep into the litany of cliches that surround this type of game, this is the NBA. The Jazz have players who get paid a lot of money. Lauri Markkanen's a really good player. I was shocked, actually, Andy, at the end of the game to look up and see that Walker Kessler only had 16 points because it seemed like so many more because he never missed because they were all dunks. But so they've got some decent players on this team, young players who are playing fairly well. That doesn't mean they're good. When the
Walker
Lakers,
Kessler looked like he was having a revenge game against the Lakers for not putting out the most godfather of offers to get him the F out of Salt Lake, out of Utah, onto a team that actually matters. Because you mentioned 8 of 8 from the field, 16 points, 8 rebounds, 6 blocks. All of them felt like more. It felt like you could have doubled all 3 of those stats.
Well, it's because they came in that stretch where the Jazz were really pushing that lead out. You had dunks in that 20 to think it was 20-2 run that kind of ended the game in the second half. There was, but we'll talk about this as the show goes on. Like the game is not meaningful in the sense that the Lakers had a bad night. They probably were looking past it a little bit. They were missing players. They had players who could play who were still on minutes restrictions. Between Jared Vanderbilt and Luka, who kind of put himself in his minutes restriction tonight anyway. He was going to meet his number just to foul trouble, and then the Lakers getting blown out. In that sense, the game is not meaningful, but it did reveal certain things. The rim protection. Jaxson Hayes goes out with that injury, plays 7 minutes. Rim protection, which is going to be an issue anyway, is really an issue when he didn't play. Against the certain types of centers, it's going to be an issue. But we kind of already knew that. I can't get that worked up about what it was, but I will say this: the Lakers were wildly out of sorts for almost the entire game. Utah's zone completely took them out of their offense. Maybe that's somewhere where Luka, the challenge of integrating Luka into the offense gets a little bit different when you're playing against a different type of defense that the Lakers, quite frankly, looked poor against before Luka got here. They've not been good at beating zones. Austin Reaves was 1 for 10. The turnover numbers
from behind the arc.
What? Behind the arc, yeah. The turnover numbers were not crazy bad in the first half, but they weren't great. That shot balance that had helped them defensively completely disappeared because they couldn't navigate this zone that Utah was throwing at them.
They looked really unfocused, I thought, for a lot of this game. I mean, beyond not looking at all on the same page, they just looked. I mean, Austin Reaves said afterwards that he thought just from the jump there was a disconnected vibe. And, I don't think he meant it as anything in terms of team chemistry or anything like that. They did not begin on the same page. I also wonder, or maybe even hope, that Luka tonight, he played on Monday, his first game after a 22-game absence. And I wonder if his body was feeling it, because I don't think he played particularly. He had a couple of incredible passes and he had a couple nice step back threes, but he had 5 turnovers, a few of which were just not even just bad decisions, but I thought actually badly executed passes.
He looked to me like he was just trying to squeeze things into windows that even for Luka were too small.
And even by the standards defensively that nobody is expecting Luka Dončić to come in here and remind people of prime Michael Cooper. But even by those standards, I thought some of Luka's closeouts were incredibly slow and not unattentive, just flat out slow. Like, Luka looked slow on the court tonight. Again, in ways that I do wonder if, I know conditioning at this point is a loaded term with Luka, given everything Dallas is trying to message about, we had to send fat ass out the door because he'll never stop eating. But, he is still ramping himself up to prime game shape. And I do wonder if his body was feeling the effects of 24 minutes after that long of an absence, because he did look a few steps slow to me tonight.
Yeah. Then, the pace of the week. And I mean, it's like a lot of stuff has happened. And, the Lakers are, I think, fortunate that Luka's not playing in the All-Star game. Like, this helps the Lakers. He can stay in LA, he can get settled. I mean, he may end up going to San Francisco for the game, but but he's not going to be doing stuff. He can get a little, rest in, get a little more workout in, get more acclimated to LA and kind of work all that stuff out. But yeah, I mean, like, the game itself on Monday was such a blowout. it became very easy to sort of get excited, maybe even forget a little bit that there is going to be a learning curve here. There's going to be some adjustment. It's going to take time, and there will be moments where it looked clunky. I was hoping they would be able to steal 2 wins against the Jazz, so they didn't have to kind of, figure stuff out as much on the run, get a little bit more of a cushion. But, you split and now you have the break. It's not the end of the world. It was a great night to remind you why the role players matter on this team. So want to talk a little bit about that and Dalton Knecht getting back on the floor next.
Locked on Lakers is brought to you by Wayfair. After the holiday hustle, I guess, mid-February is still considered hustle adjacent, if nothing else, to the holidays. There's nothing like giving your home a little TLC, a makeover, a little treat. And for many people, decluttering and refreshing their space helps them get into a routine like a feng shui. And whether you're tidying up or clearing out or just want to give your space a new look, Wayfair has everything you need, all within your budget. I am currently looking for furniture. My wife and I have been talking about maybe replacing a couple things. And Wayfair, for us, for anybody, the huge selection makes it easy to find pieces for your style and budget. And the free/hassle-free delivery, even for larger items, makes everything easier. The site's easy to navigate, all of that stuff. So give your home the refresh it needs with Wayfair. Head to wayfair.com right now. That's WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair, every style, every home.
Quick reminder to folks, Locked On Lakers is a newsletter now. Yeah, they're all the rage now, Andy, newsletters. Everyone's got them, and so do we. You should go to lockedondaily.com. You click there, and you go to Locked On Lakers, and you can have this show and a bunch of really great analysis from around the network delivered to you every single day of the week, except weekends, because we're not doing that on weekends. But anyway, a couple questions in the chat, and reminder, you obviously can sign up for and subscribe to Locked On Lakers on YouTube. You can also subscribe to it, the audio version, at wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, or whatever. Another way to get the show delivered to you every single day. You don't have to click and hunt and find it. It will show up if you subscribe. This was a bit of an object lesson, Andy, in the relative importance of Jaxson Hayes. Small sample size, he was a +2 in his 7 minutes. And late run, meaningless run, and garbage time notwithstanding, pretty much once he was out of the game, the rest of it was minus for everyone.
Yeah, when he got hit in the face, I'm going to be honest, nothing about whatever really led Jaxson to leaving the game jumped out at me like, that is bad. Like, that is really whatever. But started noticing he's not re-entering the game. Then it was announced at halftime, or right after halftime, we were told by the Lakers that he wasn't going to be re-entering the game. But look, Alex Len made his debut with the Lakers, and he looked a lot like we told you all that we thought he would look. He is a massive human being that will occasionally be able to use that size to good effect, good rebounding, stuff like that. But he's pretty slow on both sides of the ball. He doesn't, he had 7 rebounds in this game, some of which were in garbage time and a block, but he was often beat defensively. He hasn't played meaningful minutes in a while. JJ conceded that this was a difficult place to put him in his first game. He said, like, this season, talking about either Koloko or Jemison, like, there's been a few occasions where
the game he tried to sneak Bronny in.
Right.
That was an example.
There's been some times where either two-way players or deep bench guys have been put in difficult, even unfair positions. But Alex Len does not make you worry about or feel less worried about Jaxson Hayes if he's missing time. I will say, though, I think Koloko is better. And especially now, if you're going to play Koloko at all, like, I understand the concern about trying to make sure he doesn't reach that 50 game mark before you're either ready to convert him or whatever. But if you're going to play him, frankly, if you're going to activate him because it counts towards his 50 game limit, I would play him more for what it's worth. But they really need Jaxson out there. He's by far the best center that they have. He also is the best lob threat that they have. Like, that piece of their offense changes without Jaxson there. And then the importance of Dorian Finney-Smith and Gabe Vincent, who've both been playing very well over the last month on the whole. Their absences mattered. Mr. Matsuda pointed out in the chat, I think he's right, the small lineups without DFS really suck.
Yeah, it makes who you put in. And we talked about this a lot for Wednesday's show. Like, the Lakers playing without a center, makes them technically going small, but they've got a lot of size when they go small if they do it right. And but that is compromised when you're missing two of your better defenders, arguably two of the best defenders that you have on the team now, post AD and Christie trade in DFS and Vincent. Those are guys that you depend on to prevent a little bit of that pressure from getting to the rim. So, I mean, look, I'm willing to give Alex Len a little bit of grace on a night like Wednesday night. Dropped in there, he said after the game, it's like, I don't know any of the plays. He doesn't know the guys on the team. The communication is different. He's playing the Lakers because they were so shorthanded. We're playing with depth lineups where it wasn't that you had, just Jordan Goodwin on the floor surrounded by three starters and a top reserve. It was Jordan Goodwin with Alex Len, with Dalton Knecht, and that's, you're going to start to see the drop off in players. Like, guys like Goodwin can really slide in and play well when they're surrounded by better players. When that talent level drops off, you're going to see some of those differences. So it is 100% correct to say that Len, this is probably not the game to judge him on.
Sure.
But, I think
he confirmed some priors, though. I mean, I'm not saying he can't.
Right. That's what I was going to say. Like, as much as I'm trying to, as I think, I people say I've been unfair to Hayes, and we've fleshed this out a little bit too for Wednesday's show. Like, at the very least, he's going to be asked to do things he's never really done in high leverage moments in his career. He's played well. And even with that, he's kind of limited, and what those limitations are. Alex Len has a 10-year track record in the league. We kind of know what he is, and I don't object to having him around, but I don't think you want to necessarily be leaning on him to play big minutes. I don't think the Lakers are. I don't think they wanted to play him tonight. They kind of had to because they ran out of centers.
I think they planned on playing him tonight. I just
maybe a little, but not.
Well, yeah. The reason I say that is I sat in on the Sedano and Kaplan show on 710 ESPN. Actually did the Lakers pregame for 710, the Lakers radio affiliate. And before that, and actually during the pregame, I was talking with John Ireland from 710 as well. And he made it sound like they had intentions of playing Alex Len tonight, but he certainly wouldn't have been.
Maybe the sort of matchup based big body and Kessler.
Well, they would not have played him
on the floor.
Yeah, wouldn't have played him in the same way, and certainly for not as long or in the same minutes.
But yeah, there's a certain type of center that is going to give the Lakers trouble anyway. And it doesn't have to necessarily be like just Nikola Jokic. It's certain guys with size, a little bit of quickness, whatever it might be. The Lakers have done a decent job of against Zubats, against Karl Anthony Towns, of putting guys in places to double team, to soft double, to change the coverages and do that kind of stuff. But that requires players who know each other to be on the floor together. And they didn't have that option on Wednesday night. Again, another reason that while they should have won the game, and if they finish 6th instead of 5th by a game, or they're tied for something that they wouldn't have been tied for, whatever it might be, you're going to look back at this and you'll put it in the list of games that you wish the Lakers hadn't lost. I just feel differently about it than I do the others because of the previous 2.5 weeks or whatever it's been. I feel better about it because I think they are closer to being able to play in a sustained positive way than they were in November when they were all over the freaking map.
Yeah, the game doesn't give me pause about who they are as a player. I just feel like there is a non-0% chance that this is the type of game that they look back on and say, I wish we had been more serious for that game, because it would have been nice to have that, even with all of the things we talked about, that winnable game. I mean, plenty of, I have not seen every single game of the NBA season this year, but based on their record, I will say plenty of teams have overcome whatever shortcomings they were dealing with to beat the Utah Jazz.
Yes.
I think that's safe to say.
Yes. I mean, look, Memphis is, I think they're going to lose to the Clippers on Wednesday, but they're 36-17 heading into that game. John Morant's been out. Desmond Bane has missed time. They've had more guys in and out of that lineup, and they still have managed to figure out ways to win. It's something that good teams do. It's something that Robert Horry talked about in the post game on Spectrum Sportsnet. Good teams go out and win these games, and the thing about it is, for the most part, the Lakers have
Sure.
Their record against sub 500 teams is excellent, and so and they've been so good that what they looked like Wednesday was really jarring because of it. It was actually more jarring because of it, because of how well they played. The Dalton Knecht saga, Andy, though, seems to be over. He played. He, at least on one half of the floor, looked pretty good. And after the game, everybody seemed to put it to bed. We'll talk about it next. So, Knecht, Andy, back on the floor. You had your suspicions as to whether or not it would take place. And, I guess for better and for worse, he looked exactly like Dalton Knecht. I mean, in that sense, I thought it was good.
Like I said, I was not sure from a logistical standpoint, with this trade being up in the air or contested, or however you want to put it. At the end of the day, I would be stunned if the league tells the Lakers they have to honor the original trade agreement and you have to take Mark Williams. I would be shocked. I just did not know if, from any type of either logistical or cautiousness on the Lakers' part, anything I didn't think it was a question of Dalton not being allowed to play, as much as the Lakers perhaps opting not to play him until this was fully, truly resolved. But either way, yeah, he looked like Dalton. JJ said that, he's good. He mentioned that a couple of times, we talked, he's good. Then he said, we're not talking about this anymore, whether he meant me and Dalton, the team and Dalton, whatever, or we, as in JJ Redick and the media. We are not talking about this anymore. I think they are looking to put this behind them. I think they've acknowledged the weirdness of it. It is weird. You and I have covered the league for a long time, and it's been about 20 years. There's been 2 rescinded trades, something like that. This really does not happen particularly often. It's about once a decade. And it's weird for Dalton Knecht because he's a rookie on top of it all. But this is part of the deal with becoming an NBA player. You have to deal with this stuff. I mean, if Luka Dončić can get sideswiped into getting traded somewhere else, then Dalton Knecht is certainly fair game. And it's not like they traded Dalton for a better version of Dalton. They traded him for a completely different type of player. It may hurt, but he should be able to intellectually understand that.
I didn't expect any of this to be a problem, to be honest with you. I mean, I know these are people, and JJ Redick had a great reminder of that when he, you referenced earlier, when he was talking about what he's planning on doing in the All-Star break. He's going to coach his kids' teams and try to find everybody a place to live. It is easy to forget sometimes these are human beings. They are regular people, and and they are not robots. So that said, Knecht, when he was talking after the game, basically said, like, look, at the end, I just want to hoop. And he said, he must have said in that interview, I just want to go out and hoop. 5-6 times in that interview. And I don't mean this, in a negative I mean, like, Dalton Knecht is a basketball player. Like, that is what he does. Like, that, I don't think he's got a ton of other interests. I don't think he's got a ton of other stuff that he likes to do. The dude loves to play basketball, and he just wants to go play. And he's got an opportunity to play here. And I think we saw the good and the bad. Like, the shot still kind of coming around, and like it feels good. He looks like a useful player offensively again. And you could see defensively why he is potentially going to be difficult to play in the playoffs, because while the Lakers were struggling, he was really struggling.
Well, really,
I think is a prime candidate to get targeted if he gets on the floor in the playoffs.
Well, it's especially difficult to play Dalton when you're missing guys like DFS and Gabe and Vando's on a minutes limit. Like, for the time being, we're talking about not just 3 of the more defensive oriented players on this team. You're talking about 3 guys who come off the bench and 3 guys who will often be playing with Dalton and can help Dalton out in that way. Like, with those three guys either unavailable or compromised with how much they can be on the floor, Dalton's defensive issues really become magnified at that point.
Yeah. Well, it's just almost every team is going to have a guy, 2 guys, 3 guys. So you kind of want to hide defensively. And, the Lakers are going to, in the playoffs, I don't know if hide is the right word. They will certainly try to de-emphasize the relative importance defensively of Luka, for example, both because it's not a strong suit, but also because he's going to be doing a lot of work on the other end of the floor. LeBron, who's a better defender than Luka when he's engaged, they're still going to try to, at the very least, pick their spots with him to make it easier. But when you start to put 3 or 4 guys on the floor at once, who in a perfect world you'd like to hide, it gets to be problematic. Reaves works really hard, for example, and can get picked on pretty frequently by the right team with the right matchups. And so, again, this to me was a game where you see some of the red flags. They are there. They're out there. No, they don't disappear because of the Doncic trade. And in some of them, get flaggier. But I am choosing right now to focus on, I think, of where they are. And if you would have taken a poll, Andy, and said the Lakers would be 32-20 going into the All-Star break, would you take that?
Yeah.
What percentage of Lakers fans do you think would have said, if you'd asked them on October 20th, what percentage do you think would have said 32-20, sign me up? 90, 95?
Why so low? I mean, for real, like heading
Michael
into
Thompson thinks they should win every game.
Well,
our friend Michael
Michael doesn't know how to do an online poll, so he's left out of this survey. Like, I think most Laker fans heading into this season, if you had said they'll go into the break 12 games above 500, will you be cool with that? The answer would be yes. Just tell me how. I don't believe they're actually capable of doing that. Explain this to me like I'm a 7-year-old and really make it simple, because what you're saying sounds like bull bleep.
Another thing to remember, when the Lakers get out of the break, they are a week further along without playing any games, but they're a week further along in Vando getting further away from a minutes restriction.
Gabe.
In Luka moving further away from minutes restrictions, whatever lingering issues that DFS has should go away. Look, I mean, I understand every team gets healthy over the break, but
Gabe as well.
The Lakers need those guys, and it is critical. Like the thing that makes me sort of sad about losing this game is the Lakers' schedule coming out of the break was hard anyway. Now they have 2 extra games that have to be kind of wedged in there because of the scheduling changes, because of the fire disruption. It's going to get that much more challenging. They have, extra back-to-backs, all that kind of stuff. And it will be really important that they can maximize every player that they have available to them. And that means getting Vanderbilt up to a higher level of intensity. It means wiping out any other restrictions. And it means getting the Luka LeBron thing going as quickly as you can with as little friction as can be expected.
And also figuring out what's wrong with Jaxson Hayes, and if need be, using this week to find him a really good mask.
Because facial confusion was the official.
Sure, I know, but we don't know anything beyond what that means. I'm just saying they really need to get Jaxson back. It's say whatever you will about what it means that this team needs Jaxson Hayes, but the reality is this team needs Jaxson Hayes, and he has played on balance better than anybody, including, I think, if they were being honest internally, the Lakers have expected, certainly over the last few weeks. And now his importance on this team, even though we've talked about crunch time will likely be spent going small, I think JJ is going to look to go small with a full roster often because that's some of their best players. Jaxson Hayes really matters on this team now. That's just reality.
It's a little like we used to talk about Vando, where the issue isn't just a matter of is Jared Vanderbilt a great player? No, he's got holes in his game. Is Jared Vanderbilt really important for this team because nobody else can do what he does? Well, yeah. And that's where it was. The skill set that he provides, there was such a gaping hole, and they couldn't be replicated by other people. I thought you could put, between two or three guys, kind of make that up, and you feel it just didn't work. And there's Koloko is a sort of Jaxson Hayes. This sounds weird to say. Koloko is kind of Jaxson Hayes light. You say because Jaxson Hayes is sort of other people light. But there isn't anybody who can get above the rim like Hayes can, who rebounds really, he's a little more polished at this point than Koloko is, and they just don't have anybody else. And so, yeah, he matters. And so preserve that young man's face, figure out how to do that.
Yeah. Again, find him a really good mask over this week if needed. Let him take Jordan Goodwin's mask. He seems to hate wearing it as it is. So might as well put the thing to good use.
So we'll see what happens, as the Lakers get out of the break. Still some roster tweaking that might happen between now and the end of the year. But obviously the emphasis when it starts will be hitting the ground running as much as possible with Luka and LeBron. With this new combination really working effectively, and hopefully Luka kind of ramping back up to regular season form after a very, very long layoff. Locked On Lakers on YouTube, so we're going to go hang out with over, we'll just call it nearly 32,000 subscribers. Reminder, we will be doing our regular schedule of broadcasts during the All-Star break, so you don't have to go away. We will be here Monday through Friday, as we always are. But a lot to be excited about with the Lakers heading into the second half of the season. We'll see everyone tomorrow.